Thank you very much for the kind introduction and the kind invitation and your hospitality. And thank you as audience who had the courage to come in and not to take profit from the sun outside. I will discuss with you the issue of European policy and advocacy action, and the content of this talk is also related to my work in European Kidney Health Alliance, which I will explain more in detail later on, but it's a Brussels-based NGO that defends the case of the kidney patients and the nephrological community at the level of the European Union in Brussels. And this is the summary of what I'm going to tell to you. It's an introduction, first of all, on how Europe works, because that is not very well known to many people. Then an introduction on European Kidney Health Alliance and what we are doing. And then briefly also about the difference and also the similarities and the co-activities of European Kidney Health Alliance on one hand and European Renal Association. And we will finish with a call for support for a manifesto that we're intending to launch in the weeks before the European elections of 24. So this is a brief EU history with the most important people that were involved. And central is someone that is known to very few people. It's Altiero Spinelli. If you come to Brussels to the European Parliament, you will see this name, very prominent there. It's the first person who actually issued the idea of an European Union, and that was already in 1936. Spinelli was an Italian communist that was imprisoned by Mussolini on an island, and there he could only, as activities, grow vegetables, but he also wrote down his idea of a European Union on cigarette paper because he was not allowed to have regular paper over there. And later on he made a brilliant European career. He became a European parliamentarian and also European commissioner. Now the idea was picked up again after the Second World War. And here there were people prominent from the two parties that had been at war at least 3 times over the last 100 years, with a lot of structural and also economic damage. That was France and Germany. The idea was that this could not go on forever and ever, and also that the economic strengths that we had as Europe need to be taken more profit of. And on the one hand, there were 2 French people there. One of them was Robert Schuman, was a very boring guy, a very bad speaker. And when he presented his idea of the European Union to the French government immediately after the Second World War, he spoke for 1.5 hours. Nobody understood what he meant. And because it was almost lunchtime, the government approved for his idea. And so the European Union came to what it is. His counterpart was Jean Monnet. It was actually just the opposite. It was an extrovert with a huge network. He had been in cognac business before the Second World War. And he also knew very many people in the United States. And from the German side, there was Konrad Adenauer. It was one of the few people in Germany who had not been contaminated by Nazism. He was an ex-mayor of Cologne, but he has been expelled because he did not sympathize with Nazis. So he was a pure soul in that country. And it must be said that this German-French link continued many times afterwards. For instance, this legendary figure of Mitterrand and Kohl holding hands at a celebration, but also the combination of Sarkozy and Merkel was famous. And then at the origin, next to the French and the Germans, there were also people from Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, because those had been together already in a structure, the Benelux, and those were Polaris Pack, Bayen, and Beck. And then you see the evolution of the name from European Coal and Steel Community, because that was important to economy immediately after the World War, to European Economic Community, to European Union in 73. But always the emphasis was on economy, and that's what it is. In essence, the European Union is still an economic union. And then the whole thing was growing. In 51, it was started with the 6 countries that we discussed already in the first slide. And then there came more and more countries, up to a maximum in 13 when Croatia came in. And then, as you know, with the Brexit, we dropped down to 27 again. The structure is important to explain. It's a bit check and balance like in the United States, but it's slightly different. We have a trio over here. On the one hand, there is a commission. These are the executors. That's the government, so to say. We have the parliament, like in all democratic institutions, but you also have the European Council, not to be confused with the Council of Europe, which is something different and which is based in Strasbourg. But the European Council is the gathering of the government leaders of the 27 countries. And like this council, there are also councils per specialty, per ministry. So there is one on health, there is one on migration, etc., etc. And these 3, they are keeping each other in balance, with the parliament being the most active and the most original in their propositions. So it's always very good to speak to European parliamentarians, because if you want to change something, they are the first source to do this. The council is the most conservative, and that's also not a surprise, because they are governments and they sit on their money, and also they sit on their own power. And then in between is the commission. And this is also led by presidents, the commission by Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, the German lady, and then the Belgian president of the council, Charles Michel. They are here nicely together on the picture, but they don't, according to the humor, like each other very much. And it seems even, again, according to the rumor, that von der Leyen cuts off the picture of Michel if they are together on a photo, like in a divorce, actually. But that's only a rumor. I don't know whether it is true. And then the commission is composed by 1 president, 8 vice presidents, 18 commissioners. They are not elected, they are appointed by their countries. If you count them up, you come nicely to 27. And that's the number that we have, the number of countries also. So each country has 1 member of the commission. There is also the presidency of the Council of the European Union. So next to Michel, who is the president, who is actually at the head of the meeting, there is also a rotating presidency per country. So each period of 6 months, there is 1 country president. In fact, they are acting as a trio. There is the previous one, the next one, and the current one. So for the time being, we are with Spain. After that come Belgium and Hungary. And for us, it is also important to speak to them. If they have a priority that fits together with what is a priority for us, we try to put our wagon on their train, and you can move forward in their slipstream. For instance, with Croatia, we were quite successful up to a certain point with transplantation, but unfortunately then COVID occurred and our momentum was lost. So for the time being, it is Spain. We're picking up again on transplantation. With Belgium, it will be on innovation and patient-related problems. With Hungary, we hope that it will be transplantation again. And then there are directorates, that's the administration, and that is also important to talk to them, because they have suggestions on how to deal with the problems and also how to do it in a legal way and a most organized way. The members of parliament is a huge number, 705, 7 fractions. Parliament works in a different way of national parliaments, in a way that parliamentarians are much more free to do what they want. So they are not working in fractions. They do not have to follow the orders of the leadership of the party. Like in national governments, most often it's more like the UK system or the Anglo-Saxon system, let's say, and they can decide according to their conscience. And in this way, again, the parliamentarians are very important people because they have this liberty. They work very hard. They are working in many commissions, and for us, ENVI, that's the Commission on Environment, Health and Food, is the most important one. Now they created also a Sant Commission that's specifically on health. Again, much as a consequence of COVID. We don't know how this will end, but it's an interesting evolution. And then you also have to know that the competencies are different, that the European Commission and Union has not always the same power, that they have exclusive competencies, that if they decide something like that, then the governments need to follow automatically. And that's, for instance, mostly regarding economic questions. And then there are a little bit less strong competencies shared, but the lowest level are supporting competencies, and here the European Commission can only give advice, and unfortunately health is in there. But we have also a number of shared competencies where we can use arguments for our advocacy, and most important in this context for us are environment, safety, and humanitarian aid. And we should not forget that also public health has a stronger, that the European Union has a stronger power regarding public health. And then finally, there is this silly thing of voting procedure, so it does not always or rarely work with a simple majority, and you have many different systems according to the topic. You have also a qualified majority. That means that 72% of the members have to be in favor, or you have this blocking minority if 4 members are against. That's what is often exerted by the Visegrad group, Czechia, Poland, Hungary, if they can find a 4th one to block something. And then you have this unanimity thing, which is of course a crazy thing. That was good when there were 6 countries, but when there are 27, so if one country is against, then it doesn't work anymore. In addition, how or for what it is written down that it is for quote-unquote sensitive matters, and that's very vague. So, and if we have this kind of thing, then we are in trouble. For instance, for smoking, warning on cigarette packages, one country, more exactly Bulgaria, opposed for 10 years before the warning came on the packages. Now about European Kidney Health Alliance. So a Brussels-based NGO defending the case of kidney patients, kidney community at the level of the European Union. We are not only representing the physicians, we are also representing the nurses, the foundations. We have commercial partners, there are individuals, members then more exactly of our working groups. And also, and most importantly, the patients. And everything we want and we try to do, we do it together with the patients, because I think they are very important, and also politicians tend to listen more to patients than to doctors. They don't trust doctors very well, perhaps with reason. And we are bringing together for the time being the 5 most important European societies related to kidney disease: the European Renal Association, the International Society of Nephrology, but also the nurses, the EDTNA, and the patients, EKPF, together with the Dutch Kidney Foundation. And interestingly, also we have 31 affiliated members, and these are national or regional societies, which are part of our activities, but also receive regular information of what is happening in Europe. And if we look at our membership, then you will see in blue, those are the EU countries that are member, in orange, the non-EU countries. So we also have members from outside the European Union, more exactly Russian Federation, Turkey, the UK. And also, but that was colored incorrectly, Bosnia-Herzegovina. They are not yet members of the European Union. But you see that these 31 countries are spread all over the place. But in gray, you have our non-members, so we are also still black areas. And more importantly and interestingly, we have participation, for instance, of Greece, Romania, and a number of Balkan countries, also Croatia and Slovenia. But there is quite a gray area in the Balkan area with Bulgaria, with Moldova, Albania, Montenegro, Serbia, North Macedonia. All these countries are still non-members, and of course we would be glad to welcome them. So if there is any representative of any of these countries up here and wants to have more information, they can come to me after this presentation. We have several ad hoc projects. One is on prevention of CKD and screening. something that is unharmonized and unorganized in Europe. So we have this kind of pilot program on what actions should be undertaken. We get European money to run that program together with several partners. We're partnering with a number of other NCD societies that are working on areas that are related to kidney disease, more exactly with the International Diabetes Federation of Europe, IDF Europe, where we are at the start of a project that will emanate in a position paper. And we are also part of the European Association for Cardiac Health, which is then advocating on cardiac problems, cardiology, but where we try to insert, sometimes with less success, but often with more success, more and more success, let's say, insert the idea that chronic kidney disease is a major cardiovascular risk factor, which is quite often, I must say, forgotten by cardiologists. Facilitate home dialysis is also something that is starting now, because we think that is the way to go in future. And there is this establishment of international collaboration that's over the Atlantic with the United States on scientific research and innovation in kidney disease. Some of our activities, we have published recommendations on chronic kidney disease. That's the backbone, the Bible of our activities. You can find them on our website. That's from 2015, but still everything we do every year is based on that. We have an annual kidney forum. That's a meeting in the European Parliament on important matters in nephrology, and I will come back to that in a minute. We have regular meetings with European policymakers and their administration. On the picture, Ms. Stella Kyriakides, the current Cypriotic Health Commissioner. We are active in the context of World Kidney Day. I come back to that as well. We have a number of peer-reviewed articles on chronic kidney disease, and we are active on social media, on X, as you know, the previous name being Twitter, and LinkedIn. But I come back to that later on as well. And we published on a regular basis, so this year also already a number of ones, and I think the most important ones are here, a policy call on rare kidney disease that appeared in the Clinical Journal of American Society of Nephrology, and one on inequities in kidney health and care, where also Dr. Tessar, who is here in the room, collaborated. I think a very important paper on an issue that is not much taken into consideration in nephrology, that is this kind of social injustices and the fact that actually the poorest people, the least educated people, are the ones that get chronic disease, but on the other hand, that are not optimally taken care of. Also, some of our working groups are publishing, more exactly here, this paper by Biringa and co-workers in the Clinical Kidney Journal. And we also are this kind of mix articles, science and advocacy. On green nephrology, there was an editorial in the Journal of Nephrology, but should be followed by a larger paper later on next year. And also in the lay press, let's say, the more regularly read non-professional literature, we are writing from time to time to create awareness on kidney disease, but that's one of the main problems. Awareness of kidney disease is quite often missing. So as already said, we have been active, are active every year on World Kidney Day. This year we were extremely successful with a campaign around Tina Turner, who came up with a position statement on how she neglected her hypertension and as a consequence developed kidney insufficiency, which was, because of the name, picked up in the press quite actively internationally and drew a lot of attention around the world, also in the United States. Unfortunately, Ms. Turner died shortly after that, but we still are using this material in our upcoming campaigns. And we had also in the European Parliament another meeting on the 80 years anniversary of the start of dialysis in its current form, and the need for innovation in that area. So this is the forum. The forum of 22, I think. This year there were even more people there. It's always happening in the European Parliament. If your society is a member, then you are invited to go there. And it's always interesting. It's an interesting meeting in SE because we are discussing important issues in nephrology with several stakeholder groups. But it's also interesting to be inside the European Parliament and to see once how it works. And this year our topic was green nephrology because we are convinced that if there is anything to say about nephrology, but there are much things to be said, but also nephrology is a very environment unfriendly business, especially dialysis, but also the manufacturing of products. So this is something that needs to change. Unfortunately, in the nephrological world, there is not much knowledge of the possibilities that are offered by the European Commission to work on environmental issues. And on the other hand, from the European Commission policymakers and the general population at large, they are not aware of the environment unfriendliness of kidney disease and actually are not aware of kidney disease at all. The result is that we are mentioned in parliamentary debates, which up to 5 years did not happen. That we got this money from the European Union to work on prevention and screening, that CKD is now included in EU reports, which also was missing up till a few years ago, that we are every year at least once and more often even represented in the European Parliament, that ECHA is seen as the partner from the European Commission if there is something on kidney diseases, and that we are, for the time being, developing a strong network of EU policymakers and of interested parties that is becoming larger and larger, and the larger we are, the stronger we are to enforce the idea that kidney disease needs to be taken care of. And the same needs to happen on a national level. And if you want to do it on a national level, we have material and we have ideas how this should happen. We are active on social media. Here are our links for X above here, and then also for LinkedIn. So if you are interested, please follow us. The more followers we have, the happier we are. And also, if we get a like, then we like that. That's all very modern. I'm not very experienced in all this kind of stuff, but it appears that this is the way to go. And then very briefly also something about the differences, but also the collaborations between ERA and ECHA. ERA is our major full member. So we are different, but we work together. ERA, as you know, is working mainly on education and science and on professional networking. We are in advocacy in European policy and in creating awareness. That's what is lacking. There is no awareness on kidney diseases still around the world, so this is the big thing to do also on a national level. The ERA is producing scientific knowledge that we can use for our advocacy work. And on the other hand, our advocacy increases the funding for research on kidney diseases, and that then again favors the ERA membership. The ERA is doing, as you know, congresses, working groups, nephrology journals and registry. We are doing fora in the European Parliament, meetings with EU policymakers, and organizing roundtables and webinars around specific topics that are within the context of what we are really wanting to promote, which is a large array on quality of life, inequity, home dialysis, transplantation, prevention, environment. So there are quite a number of topics that we are doing. And then the ERA has individual members, mainly nephrologists. We have national and international nephrology societies in Europe, representing not only nephrologists, but also patients, nurses, foundations, industry and providers, and we collaborate with members of the European Parliament. The goals of ERA and those of ECHA are exactly the same, promoting kidney health for all. I would add for ECA within a reasonable cost for the society, improving kidney care for patients, quality of life, personalized medicine, and strengthening the kidney community. We are always considered as this kind of small child in a group of large non-communicable diseases, and that's really unfair because the number of kidney patients is huge, 1 in 7 in Europe, and the economic burden is huge, greater than for diabetes, cancer, or any other chronic disease, but nobody knows, and because nobody knows, nobody cares, and of course, kidney disease, you do not feel it, and it happens. When it happens, it's too late. It's only killing people, but somehow that's not enough to draw the necessary attention. So I think we have to work harder to bring our message to the community and the outside world, and that can only be done by being together and by struggling, each of us, not only ECA, but everybody, to make this happen. And therefore, also with the European elections, before the elections, we are intending to send out a manifesto that is drawing the attention to the burden of kidney disease with 2 major messages: the need for innovation in kidney disease treatment. That's not only about dialysis, but that's also about transplantation and prevention. That's also a form of innovation, finding cures, medical cures for kidney diseases that refrain progression. So all this needs to be emphasized. And on the other hand, we will pick up our thread that we had before on transplantation. In 2020, as I told you, we were in a very good momentum to draw attention to transplantation. There was one first action plan on transplantation that ended in 2015, that was successful, but after that, transplantation throughout Europe has stagnated, and we want to change that to have a second action plan, so we need to be active also in this area. With this, I will end my presentation. If you need further information, either you can contact, if you want, a lady, Miss Evelien Scheres, who is our manager, at this email address, evelyn.scheres@eca.eu, or me. I did not put my picture. You have to look at me already for a half an hour, so that's more than enough. But if you want my email address, it's here, raymond.vanholder@ugent.be, and you can find my email address also in my publications. So thank you very much, and hopefully we can continue our collaboration to make kidney disease better known throughout Europe. Thank you.